Today we're going to have a geometry review talking about some of the concepts that we learned before spring break. And then we're also going to learn one new thing. We're going to discuss what is a line segment. All right, very quickly, let's review some of the basics. The first thing, one of the most basic things about geometry is that we have points. And points can be labeled with letters. For example, we might have point M right here. We could call that point M. And lots of points lined up together make a line. So if you have a bunch of points all side by side, they can end up making a line. So we could draw a full line with arrows on the ends. And if we have points with letters as labels, we could have maybe point A and point D. And so then we could say that the name of this line is line AD. You may remember that this is how I taught you to do the notation for a line. You do a line with the arrows above, and then below you put the letters. The letters represent points that are on that line. So this line is line AD, and that's how we write it. That's how we would identify it in writing, line AD. You might also have a ray. A ray is like a line except it has an endpoint, and then it goes off in one direction like that. So you could have ray, maybe we could call this ray EF if it has points E and F on it. And the way we signal that, the way we write it, is with the ray symbol above and the letters EF below. This is ray EF. Okay. One thing I haven't taught you is something called a line segment. So let's say we have a line, and let's put 3 points on that line. We'll call it line, we'll have point A, we'll have another point B, another point C. Okay, a line segment means we're not talking about the whole line like we are with AD over here when we're referring to everything on the line going forever and ever in both directions. When we're talking about a line segment over here, we might be just talking about one part of the line, a segment of the line. For example, if we're talking about line segment BC, we just write a line with no arrows, and that means we're just referring to the part of this line that goes from B to C, just that part. So we're going to write the words line segment BC, because that's what that means, line segment BC. The difference between a line segment and a line is that the line includes everything going in both directions forever and ever, all of it. Whereas the line segment is just the part of the line that we are referring to. Okay. Another thing that we've been talking about is angles. So we've learned about different kinds of angles. You guys know that acute angles are less than 90 degrees. Obtuse angles are greater than 90 degrees. We've learned about straight angles, which are 180 degrees. Let's draw an acute angle. You can use any straight edge to draw this angle. Okay, so if we have an angle and we want to talk about the measure of that angle, let's say this is angle WXY. angle WXY. If we want to talk about the measure of that angle, what we're talking about, as I've taught you before, is we're talking about not a straight measurement with a ruler, but we're talking about a rotation. So for example, if my little red spaghetti piece represents a ray and it has its endpoint right here at X, if that ray rotates up, it could continue rotating all the way around to do a full circle, but if it just stops right there at ray XW, that means it had a rotation. It first started here and rotated up to there. So it rotated up this much, this part of a circle, not a complete circle, but a part of a circle. And so we talk about measurement, we're just talking about how much of that circle, how many degrees of the full circle did it rotate. And maybe that's a 65-degree angle. I don't know, we'd have to get a protractor to measure it, but we could say that might be about a 65-degree angle. So we could say that angle WXY equals 65 degrees. Remember, this is the symbol for angle, and we can name the angle WXY like that. Another way to name angles, which was mentioned just briefly in one of the lessons we had previously, is that we can name angles using a number. So many times angles are used naming, angles are named using the 3 letters representing 3 points on the angle. But if we have something like this time let's draw a right angle. Remember, a right angle is a 90-degree angle. So if we have a right angle, 90 degrees, well, this one we're going to call ECD. Angle ECD. We say angle ECD equals 90 degrees. But what if we break that 90-degree angle into 2 parts and we say there's angle 1 and the other part is angle 2. Then we could name angles in a different way. Instead of using letters, we could just call this angle 1 and this part over here angle 2. Let's say that angle 1, let's write that down like this. Angle 1, we're referring to this angle right here. We'll say that that's a 40-degree angle. Can we figure out the measurement of angle 2? Well, do you remember complementary angles? If we have a full 90-degree angle and there's 2 parts, then the first angle and the second angle have to add up to 90 degrees. So if this part's 40 degrees right here, we could set up an equation and say that the 40-degree angle plus angle 2, we don't know, we'll call that x, equals 90 degrees total. Then we could just solve the equation. So we would say we want x by itself, right? So we got to get rid of the 40. Let's do a minus 40 and then minus 40 here. That equals 90 minus 40 is 50 degrees. So that means angle 2 must be 50 degrees. Since angle 1 was 40, and you add 50 more, you get 90. So angle 2 is 50 degrees. So I just showed you this problem to review complementary angles, but also to show you that there are really a couple of ways that we can name angles. We've already shown that we can name angles with letters, like this one, angle WXY, or angle ECD right here. But there's another way we can name angles if a number is given in the area where that angle is located. So this one was shown with 1 and this one is with 2. So we can just call those angle 1 and angle 2. It's a simpler way to name angles. You can call angles by their number. Later this week we're going to have a test. The test will include some of these things. It'll also include complementary angles and supplementary angles. I'll spend more time reviewing those things this week with you before we have our test, probably on Thursday. If you have questions, go ahead and message me or call me. I'd like you now to go to the Google form and answer those questions so I can check for your understanding. Thanks.